Shalom, my name is Adam, and I welcome you to the parable of the vineyard. Every day, Yahuah is waking up a remnant, a group of people who are coming out of deceptions, realizing our walk is to consist of faith and obedience to His righteous commands. Each week, we read through and examine a portion of the Torah, allowing the Spirit of the Most High to guide, teach, and open our eyes and ears to the wondrous matters out of His law. Join us as we seek to be refined by His Word, preparing ourselves for the return of our King of Kings, being faithful and obedient, walking in His way, truth, and life. And Shabbat Shalom, and welcome back, brothers and sisters. This is week 12, Vayechi. This is the last portion in the book of Genesis. Time's flying, right? Time's flying when you're having fun reading the Torah portions. So, lots to go over, as always. So let's start with a quick prayer, and we'll get right into the portion. Heavenly Father, Yahuah, we just come before you in Yahusha's name. We thank you for life. We thank you for this world you created for us. Your creation is absolutely amazing, and we just can't wait to dwell with you forever in righteousness, for this world to be ruled in righteousness through the reign of Mashiach. We thank you for giving us salvation through sending of your Son. We thank you for opening our eyes to the wondrous matters out of your Torah. And we just pray that you continue to give us wisdom and understanding, that we may hearken to your word and be hearers and doers of your word. In Yahusha's name, amen. And Shabbat Shalom. So, if you're watching this as a live or as a premiere, we're only doing the Torah portion today because tonight we also have the United in Yah event. If you haven't signed up yet, I think it might be a little too late. I'm not sure, but it's a 24-hour live stream of prayer, singing, and reading scripture. So I hope to see you all there tonight. So, again, this is week 12 of Vayechi, and this is Genesis 47:28 through 50:26. And this concludes Yaakov blessing Ephraim and Manasseh. Yaakov blesses his sons, the 12 sons. Yaakov's death and burial. Yosef forgives his brethren, and then the death of Yosef. And just in case you're new, what we do with these Torah portions, just to put this plainly out there, I wouldn't consider myself a Torah teacher. The reason I say that is because I feel like I have a lot to learn when it comes to Torah. So I am a student of the Torah, and I invite you to study along with me, and then we can grow together. So I just want to make that clear. Also, what we do is not only do we read the Torah portion in the Torah, but we also we compare it with books like Jasher, the Targums, the Septuagint, when applicable, to kind of get the full understanding of what's going on and get just get all the little details that sometimes you just don't get in the Torah that answers a lot of questions. So as long as that's understood, let's proceed. So let's go straight to Genesis. And it's really interesting, as I mentioned, really the kind of highlight about this is the blessing of the sons. And quite frankly, this is the death of Yaakov, and it's really, really interesting that I don't know if it's the same for a lot of you out there, but not all the time, but so many times the Torah portion lines up with what's going on in the world, or something that we just need to hear for that particular week. Like, what was it, just a few weeks ago, many of us were talking about preparation, and then of course it was the Torah portion where Yosef interprets the dream and tells Pharaoh and the people to prepare, and just things like that happen so often. And well, this week, it's the death of the father of the family, essentially. And some of you may know that's actually why I'm here, and I'm actually here in Southern California right now. My father is kind of on his way out, so just really interesting how things, at least in my life, a lot of times it lines up. Sometimes it's just past coincidence. But nevertheless, let's enough about me and my life. Let's get into the portion. So Genesis 47:28 is where it starts. And Yaakov lived in the land of Mitzrayim 17 years. So the whole age of Yaakov was 147 years. And the time drew nigh that Yisrael must die. Remember, his name is Israel, or we understand it a little better now as Yisrael and Jacob, or Yaakov. So Yaakov and Israel are his two names. So the time drew nigh that Yisrael must die, and he called his son Yosef and said unto him, If now I have found grace in your sight, put, I pray you, your hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray you, in Mitzrayim. Remember, Mitzrayim is Egypt. But I will lie with my fathers, and you shall carry me out of Mitzrayim, and bury me in their burying place. And he said, I will do as you have said. And he said, Swear unto me. And he swore unto him. And Yisrael bowed himself upon the bed's head. So for 47, we're going to take a look at Jasher, or Yashar, chapter 56, verses 1 through 4. And Yaakov lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, and the days of Yaakov and the years of his life were 147 years. At that time, Yaakov was attacked with that illness of which he died, and he sent and called for his son Yosef from Egypt. And Yosef, his son, came from Egypt, and Yosef came unto his father. So here you can see, here you've got, this is the third of the three main patriarchs. You have Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And here you have Yaakov, one of the main patriarchs, and here he was attacked with an illness of that which he died. So it goes to show you that none of us are fully impervious. Is that the right word? Impenetrable. Yaakov could have died another way. He could have died, of natural causes, or, just peacefully in his sleep, but he got attacked with an illness. We saw something very similar, actually. I spent some time recently in Samuel, 1st and 2nd Samuel, and 1st and 2nd Kings, and we see this story even with Elisha, who, quite frankly, had one of the most amazing ministries. I'd really like to do a study on him one time, but he did some amazing works through the Ruach, and it said he was attacked with an illness too, and he died. I can't remember the exact words, but he didn't die peacefully. It was an illness that attacked him. So, it's one thing for us to know that we've got the Ruach in us, but we also have to remember that, and I'm not saying that Yaakov was unprotected, but something that I've learned recently. I was witnessing to somebody that I knew had demons, and I don't know that I was fully protected. Like, I didn't ask for that protection, and I felt like maybe they had an opportunity there. So it's something that I learned pretty recently. So just keep that in mind, especially when you're going into a situation where somebody may not be following the Most High, and you get into an in-depth conversation with them, especially if you're going to witness to them. If they've got demons in them, they're not going to like what you have to say, and so just keep that in mind. But my overall point is that we're not impervious, especially if we're not suited up, armored up for battle. And again, I'm not saying that Yaakov here was not, but I'm just showing you here that he was obviously a man filled with the Ruach, and here he is attacked with an illness. And many of you might disagree with me, but I do believe that many, if not all, illnesses are linked to unclean spirits and or demons. So that's something to really take into consideration. And I know that some of you that have been keeping the commandments, I've heard from quite a few of you, have not been really sick, since coming back to the commandments. And there's something about that, and we learned that from Psalm 91, that his Torah is our shield and our buckler. So especially from demons and unclean spirits and those kind of things. So verse 3, and Yaakov said unto Yosef and unto his sons, Behold, I die, and the Elohim of your ancestors will visit you, and bring you back to the land which Yahuah sware to give unto you and unto your children after you. Now therefore, when I am dead, bury me in the cave which is Machpelah in Hebron, in the land of Canaan, near my ancestors. And Yaakov made his sons swear to bury him in Machpelah in Hebron, and his sons swore unto him concerning this thing. Okay, so we are finished with chapter 47. Let's go on to 48, and we're just going to read all of 48, and then we're going to read just a little bit in the Targums. There's not much in Jasher on this chapter. So, chapter 48, and this is a very important scene here. This is where Yaakov blesses Ephraim and Manasseh. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, your father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Yaakov and said, Behold, your son Joseph comes unto you. And Yashrael strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Yaakov said unto El Joseph, El Shaddai appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, Behold, I will make you fruitful, and multiply you, and I will make of you a multitude of people, and will give this land to your seed after you for an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto you in the land of Mitzrayim before I came unto you in Mitzrayim, are mine. As Reuben and Shimon, they shall be mine. And your issue, which you beget after them, shall be yours, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance. And as for me, when I came from Padan Aram, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when there was but a little way to come unto Ephratah. And I buried her there in the way of Ephratah, the same as Bethlehem, as Bethlehem. And Yashrael beheld Joseph's sons and said, Who are these? And we're in the Targums. We'll get a little clarity here, because it almost makes it seem like he has no idea who Joseph's sons are. And you're like, wait a minute, you've seen these children for like 17 years. But two things. It could be that his eyes were going out, but the Targums actually kind of expounds on this. And Joseph said unto his father, These are my sons, whom Elohim has given me in this place. And he said, Bring them, I pray you, unto me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Yashrael were dim for age, so that's probably your explanation there. But again, something interesting in the Targums. So that he could not see, and he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them, and embraced them. And Yashrael said unto El Joseph, I had not thought to see in your face, and lo, Elohim has showed me also your seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand, towards Yashrael's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand, toward Yashrael's right hand, and brought them near unto them. And Yashrael stretched out his right hand, and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. So his hands were like that, they were crossed, where Joseph positioned them so that, Yaakov's right hand would be on Manasseh, the firstborn, and the left hand on Ephraim, the secondborn. But, so he was like, And he blessed Joseph and said, Elohim, before whom my fathers Avraham and Yitzchak did walk, the Elohim which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil. That's an interesting statement, right? Those of you that have seen the video we did maybe about a month or two ago now, called The Angel of Yahuah, or The Identity of the Angel of Yahuah. Spoiler alert, I do believe that we were able to conclude that it was Messiah Yahusha. I don't like the word pre-incarnate because, but just so you know what I mean, before he came in the flesh and sojourned among men, I do believe that he is not an angel, but the angel of Yahuah. Big difference. And if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. It really makes sense of things. Long story short, it makes sense of things that he really has been the one that's been interacting with us. I say us, I'm talking about like his people since the beginning. It's very clear that he is the one that formed, even though everything is accredited to the Father and he did all the Father's will, but he was the one that basically enacted it. He's the one that formed Adam out of the dust. He's the one that was walking in the cool of the day, saying, Adam, where art thou? He was in the burning bush with Moshe. He was on top of Mount Sinai with him. So many different instances. So it makes a lot more sense that it wasn't like the Father was in the Old Testament and then the Son was the New Testament. That's not how it works. It's been Messiah Yahusha working essentially for the Father, doing the Father's business, if you will, since the very beginning. So anyway, so that's why I mentioned it's really interesting that it says here, the angel which redeemed me from all evil. Bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers, Avraham and Yitzchak, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. Right? Because remember, his hands were, he's like, mm-mm. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great, but truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And that's Melohai Goyim. And that's what we understand in the New Testament is the fullness of the nations, or the fullness of the Gentiles. And Rob Skiba has a very interesting study on the Ephraim awakening, and I would look into it. It's actually really, really interesting. Spoiler alert on that. I think he correctly concluded through the guidance of the Ruach that Ephraim essentially is the United States, and it's the fullness. It's like a melting pot, if you will, for the lost 10 tribes. And anyways, so it's a really interesting study. I don't want to take away from that, but this is actually a really important. It's a really important study. Just look it up. It's just go YouTube. Just look up Ephraim Awakening. You might not even have to type in Rob Skiba, just Ephraim Awakening. It's an excellent study. He's got it both in written form and as a video, so I'd highly recommend that, because quite frankly, going into depth about the full meaning of this would take about another hour. So I would just recommend you, those that are interested or they're thirsty for truth and for all the truth, I would definitely look into that. 48:20. And he blessed them that day, saying, and you shall Yashrael bless, saying, Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh, and Yashrael said unto Joseph, behold, I die, but Elohim shall be with you, and bring you again into the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to you one portion above your brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorites, with my sword and with my bow. And that's a whole nother awesome study in the book of Yashar, which really explains all the wars of Yaakov and his sons against the Amorites, the Canaanites. It's just massive battles. But I think the Targum actually goes a little in depth with this as well. Actually, let's go there now. So we're going to look at the Targum of chapter 48. We're going to look at the paragraph number 3. So 48, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And Yashrael looked at the sons of Joseph and said, from whom are these born to you? Right? So it's a different question here. It's not who are these kids, who are these children? No, he's saying, from whom are these born to you? Like which one of your wives is this born unto you? And Joseph answered his father, they are my sons, which the word of Yahuah, and those of you that know your New Testament, you know who the word of Yahuah is. And that really strengthens my point of what I was saying earlier about who the angel of Yahuah is. It's the word. The angel, not an angel, but the angel of Yahuah is the word. So they are my sons, which the word of Yahuah gave me according to this writing, according to which I took Asenath, the daughter of Dinah, thy daughter, to be my wife. So we talked about this, I think a few weeks ago, that Asenath was not an Egyptian, that she was an Israelite, and that she was the daughter of Dinah. And I do believe it was in the Targums that said that Asenath was the daughter that was born from when Dinah conceived from Shechem. So, and then for whatever reason, she was raised in Egypt as opposed to Dinah raising her. So we don't have all the details on that. So nevertheless, that's interesting. And then so also want to take a look at the last paragraph here. And Yashrael said to Joseph, behold, my end cometh to die, but the word of Yahuah, there it is again. That's what I really like about the Targums. It talks about the word. It really made that clear, that the word of Yahuah was interacting with men since the beginning. Because remember, Messiah said that no man has seen the Father at any time. And I believe him, and I believe he didn't lie. And so that includes Moshe, right, and Adam. So anyways, but the word of Yahuah but the word of Yahuwah shall be your helper, and restore you to the land of your fathers. And I, behold, I have given to thee the city of Shechem, one portion for a gift above thy brethren, which I took from the hand of the Amorites at the time that you went into the midst of it, and I arose and helped you with my sword and with my bow. And this is the Jerusalem portion. And I, behold, I have given thee one portion above thy brethren, the robe of the first Adam. Avraham, the father of my father, took it from the hands of Nimrod the wicked, and gave it to Yitzchak my father, and Yitzchak my father gave it to Esau, and I took it from the hands of Esau my brother, not with sword nor with bow, but through my righteousness and my good works. So a little bit of difference here, and that's expected, with some of these small details. From what we understood before is that Esau actually took the garments from Nimrod when he killed Nimrod, but nevertheless, it still got into the hands of Esau, and Yaakov got them from Esau and gave them to, Joseph. So, all right, so let's go to chapter 49. And Yaakov called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Yaakov, and hearken unto Yisrael your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, you shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed, then defiled it. He went up to my couch. Remember, Reuben slept with Bilhah, one of Yaakov's wives. Shimon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, come not into their secret, unto their assembly. My honor, be not united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dug down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Yaakov and scatter them in Yisrael. And this will actually make a lot more sense when we read the Targums about the blessing of Shimon and Levi. It's kind of, quite frankly, it's kind of vague here. 49:8. Yehuda, you are he whom your brethren shall praise. Your hand shall be in the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Yehuda is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you are gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, nor a Torah giver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. And this is a very specific messianic prophecy, which actually came true, that even though the kingdom split apart, and the days of the kings, the books of the kings, or the chronicles of the kings, even though they rebelled, and even though they split up, and even though you had wicked kings and then a good king and then the wicked king, like the lineage continued until Messiah Yahusha came. And anyways, so pretty interesting. And here's some more. Binding his foal unto the vine, and we see. I'm sorry, and we just to finish, we saw that in the genealogies in the New Testament from either lineage. We saw the same thing, so it's interesting. Binding his foal into the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for a haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and that the land it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Yisrael. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. And again, a lot of these will actually make a little more sense in the Targums. They're a little clearer. I have waited for Yeshua, your Yeshua, O Yahuwah. Gad, and this will make a lot more sense here in a second. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose, he gives goodly words. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty Elohim of Yaakov. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Yisrael. Even by the Elohim of your father, who shall help you, and by El Shaddai, who shall bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies under, blessing of the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of your father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Yosef, and on the crown of the head of him that shall separate from his brethren. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. And this is also, quite frankly, it's a lot clearer, because this looks like a really just negative, it looks like a negative blessing, that he's just going to be like a wolf and, like, tear people apart. But again, in the Targums, it actually becomes a lot clearer. And let's see how much further. Okay, yeah, and we'll just finish up 49, and then we'll go to the Targums and Jasher. 49:28. All these are the 12 tribes of Yisrael, and this is it that their father spoke unto them, and blessed them. Everyone according to his blessing he blessed them. And he charged them, and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his woman. There they buried Yitzchak and Rivka his woman, and there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Yaakov had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, and yielded up his ruach, and was gathered unto his people. And that's the end of 49. So let's go now to Yashar, and let's read 56, 5 through 23. And he commanded them, saying, Serve Yahuah your Elohim, for he who delivered your fathers will also deliver you from all trouble. And Yaakov said, Call all your children unto me. And all the children of Yaakov's sons came and sat before him. And Yaakov blessed them, and he said unto them, Yahuah Elohiym of your fathers shall grant you 1,000 times as much, and bless you, that he may give you the blessing of your father Abraham. And all the children of Yaakov's sons went forth on that day after he had blessed them. And on the next day Yaakov again called for his sons, and they all assembled and came to him, and sat before him. And Yaakov on that day blessed his sons before his death. Each man did he bless according to his blessing. Behold, it is written in the book of the Torah of Yahuah appertaining to Yisrael. So that's what we just read in Genesis. And Yaakov said unto Yehudah, I know, my son, that thou art a mighty man for thy brethren. Reign over them, and thy sons shall reign over their sons forever. Only teach thy sons the bow and all the weapons of war, in order that they may fight the battles of their brother, who will rule over his enemies. And so this is actually a really important verse. I want to share with you why. Because here in 2 Samuel 1:18 it says, Also he bade them to teach the children of Yehudah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Yashar. So that's what we just read. I'll read it again. So this is 2 Samuel. It's referencing Yashar. And here it is, only teach thy sons the bow and all the weapons of war, in order that they may fight the battles of their brothers, who will rule over his enemies. So a big notch in the way towards Yashar being a legitimate text. And Yaakov again commanded his sons on that day, saying, Behold, I shall be this day gathered unto my people. Carry me up from Egypt, and bury me in the cave of Machpelah, as I have commanded you. Howbeit, take heed, I pray you, that none of your sons carry me, only yourselves. And this is the manner that you shall do unto me, when you shall carry my body to go with it into the land of Canaan to bury me. Now, this is really interesting, because this is I believe this is the foundation of the formation of the army of Yisrael that we saw in the book of Numbers, when they assembled camp, and how they camped around the tent of meeting, where the Levites would be in the middle. Hold on. Let's just see real quickly. Yeah, like this. Yeah. Yeah. So here, like, for example, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. Judah, Issachar, Zebulun shall carry my bier at the eastern side, right? So, very interesting. So this is when I'm talking about the formation. This is the formation I'm talking about here. Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun shall carry my bier, that's like his casket, at the eastern side. Reuben, Simeon, and Gad at the south side. Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin at the west. Dan, Asher, and Naphtali at the north. Let not Levi carry with you, for he and his sons will carry the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah with the Israelites in the camp. Neither let Joseph my son carry, for as a king, so let his glory be. Howbeit, Ephraim and Manasseh shall be in their stead. Thus shall you do unto me when you carry me away. Do not neglect anything of all that I command you. And it shall come to pass when you do this unto me, that Yahuwah will remember you favorably, and your children after you forever. And you, my sons, honor each his brother and his relative, and command your children and your children's children after you to serve Yahuah Elohim of your ancestors all the days, in order that you may prolong your days in the land, and your children's children forever, when you do what is good and upright in the sight of Yahuwah, to go in all his ways. And actually, we see that part of the commandments in Exodus 20 for honoring your father and your mother. Let's see. Yeah. Honor your father and your mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which Yahuwah thy Elohim giveth thee. So right here, so that you may prolong your days in the land. And you, Joseph my son, forgive, I pray thee, the wrongs of thy brethren, and all their misdeeds, and the injury that they heaped upon thee. So when they, threw him in the pit and sold him unto the Midianites. For Elohim intended it for thine and thy children's benefit, right? So like we talked about over the last few weeks, Yahuwah using something that was intended for evil and using it for good. And O my son, leave not thy brethren to the inhabitants of Egypt, neither hurt their feelings. For behold, I consign them to the hand of Elohim, and in thy hand to guard them from the Egyptians. And the sons of Yaakov answered their father, saying, O our father, all that thou hast commanded us, so will we do. May Elohim only be with us. And Yaakov said unto his sons, So may Elohim be with you when you keep all his ways. Turn not from his ways either to the right or to the left, in performing what is good and upright in his sight. For I know that many and grievous troubles will befall you in the latter days in the land. Yea, your children and your children's children only serve Yahuwah, and he will save you from all trouble. And it shall come to pass, when you shall go after Elohim to serve him, and will teach your children after you, and your children's children to know Yahuwah, then Yahuwah will raise up unto you and your children a servant from amongst your children, and Yahuwah will deliver you through his hand from all affliction. And actually, that's another book I've been in recently. I wanted to get into some of the books I don't normally get into, since I've been out here, kind of out of my normal routine. So I basically got into Book of Judges through the books of Kings. And, it's one thing, that's the same thing you see in Judges reoccurring. They went astray from Yahuwah, and then they repented, came back to him. He raised up a judge, delivered them. Everything was great for like 20 years, 40 years, and then they forgot him. And then they had troubles. And then they repented, came back to him. He raised up a judge, all over again. It's like it's just like a cycle that went, and literally it was just amazing to see that right after Joshua died, Joshua, the one that took over after Moshe, right after Joshua died, they were already serving Baal. You're just like, wow, unbelievable. But, I'm not judging, because, most of us were not servants of the Most High until recently, whether weeks, months, years, still most of us very, very recent. So, and that's the promise when we turn back to him. This is the biggest end times marker for me in all of Scripture that we're here in the last days. Deuteronomy 30, and it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you shall call them to mind among all the nations whither Yahuwah the Elohim has driven you. So this is after the whole scattering, and that's happened. And shall return unto Yahuwah the Elohim, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command you this day. So when you repent and turn back to him, keep his commandments, you and your children with all your heart and with all your soul, that then Yahuah Elohiym will turn your captivity and have compassion upon you, and will return and gather you from all the nations whither Yahuah Elohiym has scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the utmost parts of heaven, so you can be anywhere in this world, he said, from there will Yahuah Elohiym gather you, and from there he will fetch you, and then bring you back into the land of promise. So hallelujah to that. So again, Yahuah will raise up unto you and to your children a servant from amongst your children, and Yahuah will deliver you through his hand from all affliction, and bring you out of Egypt, and bring you back to the land of your fathers to inherit it securely. That's what we just read. And Yaakov ceased commanding his sons, and he drew his feet into the bed, and he died and was gathered to his people. And Yosef fell upon his father, and he cried out and wept over him, and he kissed him, and he called out in a bitter voice and said, "O my father, my father." Okay, so let's read now the Targum. Chapter 49. And Yaakov called his sons and said to them, "Purify yourselves from uncleanness, and I will show you the hidden mysteries, the ends concealed, the recompense of reward for the righteous, the retribution of the wicked, and the bower of Eden, what it is that I don't understand." And the 12 tribes of Yisrael gathered themselves together around the golden bed whereon he reclined, and where he was revealed to him the Shekinah of Yahuah, though the end for which the king Mashiach is to come had been concealed from him. Then said he, "Come, and I will declare to you what shall befall you at the end of days. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Yaakov, and receive instruction from your father, Yisrael, your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, the beginning of my strength, of my generation, and the chief event of my thoughts. To thee belonged the birthright, and the high priesthood, and the kingdom. But because thou hast sinned, my son," sorry for the noise, I'm in a hotel. "But because thou hast sinned, my son, the birthright is given to Joseph, and the kingdom to Yehudah, and the priesthood to Levi." So this is really the only place that I know of where it's clearly said that Joseph, we saw that in Genesis just a second ago, that it was alluded to that Joseph got an extra portion. So that means firstborn. So that's easy. But the kingdom specifically to Yehudah, and we did kind of see that actually. But specifically the priesthood being to Levi is the one that is not specific anywhere in the canon until later on, until we get to Exodus. It wasn't prophesied. So that's what's really interesting about the Targum. So again, the birthright given to Joseph, the kingdom to Yehudah, and the priesthood to Levi. "I will liken thee to a little garden in the midst of which there enter torrents swift and strong, which it cannot bear, but is overwhelmed. Be repentant then, Reuben, my son, for thou hast sinned, and add not, that wherein thou hast sinned it may be forgiven thee, for it is reckoned to thee as if thou wentest in to have to do with the wife of thy father at the time that thou didst confound my bed upon which thou wentest up." Shimon and Levi are, now this is where this makes a little more sense. Shimon and Levi are brothers of the womb. Their thoughts are of sharp weapons for rapine. In their counsel my soul hath not had pleasure, and in their gathering against Shechem, to destroy it mine honor was not united. For in their anger they slew the prince and his ruler, and in their ill will they demolished the wall of their adversary. And Yaakov said, "Accursed was the town of Shechem, and when they entered within it to destroy it in their violent wrath, and their hatred against Joseph, for it was relentless. If," said Yaakov, "they dwell together, no king nor ruler may stand before them. Therefore will I divide the inheritance of the sons of Shimon into 2 portions. One part shall come to them out of the inheritance of the sons of Yehudah, and one part from among the rest of the tribes of Yaakov." And it is interesting that the inheritance of Simeon, was inside of the portion of Yehudah. "And one part from amongst the rest of the tribes of Yaakov, and the tribe of Levi I will disperse among all the tribes of Yisrael," which that happened specifically. "Yehudah, thou didst make confession in the matter of Tamar. Therefore shall thy brethren confess thee, and shall be called Yehudim from thy name. Thy hand shall avenge thee of thy adversaries in throwing arrows upon them when they turn their backs before thee. and the sons of thy fathers shall come before thee with salutations. I will liken thee, my son Yehudah, to a whelp, the young of a lion. For from the killing of Joseph, my son, thou didst uplift thy soul, and from the judgment of Tamar thou wast free. He dwelleth quietly in strength as a lion, and as an old lion when he reposeth. Who may stir him up? Kings shall not seize, nor rulers from the house of Yehudah, nor Sepharim teaching the Torah from his seed, till the time that the king of the Mashiach shall come. Now here in the Targums, it's pointing towards David, which we know that the lineage was to come through David, and this is not a surprise, because even in a lot of the minor prophets, was it specific? I'm trying to think specifically which one. I think it's Zechariah. David, your king. I think it says. Anyways, we know that Yahusha was of the lineage of David. So, and we know that again, being recently refreshed in the book of 1st and 2nd Samuel, we saw that David called Saul Yahweh's anointed, and that's what Mashiach means. It means anointed, and we know that David was anointed. He was a type of Messiah. There's been many types of Messiahs. All the judges we were talking about earlier, even like Shimshon, Samson, and Jephthah and Gideon. These are all types of anointeds. These are all types of Mashiachs, but none of them would compare to the Messiah. And actually, we'll see that here shortly. To the time that King Mashiach shall come, the youngest of his sons, and we know that this is talking about David. He was the 8th of Jesse. And on account of him shall the peoples flow together. How beauteous is the king, the Mashiach, who will arise from the house of Yehudah. He hath girded his loins, and descended, and arrayed the battle against his adversaries, slaying kings with their rulers. Neither is there any king or ruler who shall stand before him. The mountains become red with the blood of their slain, his garments dipped in blood. Now we see this in Isaiah 63, where it's talking about Messiah Yahusha treading the grapes, and his robe being dipped in blood. Are like the outpressed juice of grapes. How beautiful are the eyes of the King Mashiach, who is as the pure wine. He cannot look upon what is unclean, nor on the shedding of blood of the innocent. His teeth purer than milk, cannot eat that which is stolen or torn, and therefore his mountains are red with wine, and his hills white with corn, and with the coats of flocks. Zebulun shall dwell upon the banks of the sea, and have dominion over the havens, will surmount the breakers of the sea with ships, and his borders extend unto Zidon. Issachar is an ass in the Torah, a strong tribe, knowing the order of the times, and he lieth down between the limits of his brethren, and he saw the rest of the world to come, that it is good, and the portion of the land of Yisrael, that it is pleasant. Therefore bowed he his shoulders into the labor of the Torah, and unto him shall come his brethren bearing presents in. It says Issachar is an ass in the Torah, so a strong tribe, knowing the order of the times. And that's, it's interesting. We were just talking about Elisha, not Elijah, but Elisha. He was from the tribe of Issachar, and boy, oh boy, again, what a strong ministry that Yahuwah gave him. From the house of Dan there is to arise a man who will judge his people with the judgment of truth. All the tribes of Yisrael will hearken to him together. A chosen man shall arise from the house of Dan, like the basilisk which lieth at the dividing of the way, and the serpent's head which lurketh by the way, that biteth the horse in his heel, and the master from his terror is thrown backward. Even thus will Shimshon bar Manova slay all the heroes of Philistia. The horsemen on the foot, he will hamstring their horses and hurl their riders backwards. And, whether this was added in or not later, it's possible. But it is also possible that he was named before he was picked. We saw that even with a non-Israelite. We saw that with Cyrus in Isaiah 45, that King Cyrus was named to be the one who was going to free his people and rebuild Jerusalem. So, and here we can see that Yaakov essentially is seeing a vision of these judges. So when Yaakov saw Gideon bar Joash and Shimshon bar Manova, who were established to be deliverers, right, or deliverers, Messiah types, again, these were anointed, these were Messiah types, but here the Targums makes a clear delineation between men, even like David or Shimshon or Gideon. Listen, when Yaakov saw Gideon bar Joash and Shimshon bar Manova, who were established to be deliverers, he said, I expect not the salvation of Gideon, nor look I for the salvation of Shimshon, for their salvation will be the salvation of an hour. But for thy salvation have I waited, and will look for, O Yahuwah, for thy salvation is the salvation of eternity. So he's making a clear difference between a man that has been anointed of Yahuwah to be the leader of a people and to deliver them. I mean, let's be honest, Moshe was a type of Messiah type. It's what we saw earlier, that when his people return to him, keep his ways, that he will raise up someone to deliver them. And that's exactly what he did with Moshe and Aharon. The tribe of Gad with the rest of the tribes will, armed, pass over the streams of Arnona and subdue before them the pillars of the earth, and armed will they return into their limits with much substance and dwell in peace beyond the passage of Jardina. For so will they choose, and it shall be to them to receive their inheritance. Happy is Asher, whose fruitage is plenteous, and whose land aboundeth in balsams and costly perfumes. Naphtali is a swift messenger, like a hind that runneth on the tops of the mountains, bringing good tidings. Again, the book of Yashar said that he was so swift and light of foot that he ran on top of the plants, essentially. He it was who announced that Yosef was living. He it was who hastened to go into Mitzrayim and bring the contract of the double field in which Esau had no portion. So we actually saw this, I think, last week when we read where Esau was contending with the cave. Or maybe we'll see it here actually in a little bit. Maybe we're about to read it here in a little bit. Either way, Esau contended with Joseph about the cave where he wanted to bury his father, and Naphtali actually ran all the way back to Egypt to get the purchase of sale, where showing that the cave belonged to Yaakov. Do we have that here this week? I think we might read that here in a little bit, actually. So I think we're going to read that here at the end. So stand by on that. So just remember that, where how Naphtali went back to bring the contract. He went back into Egypt to bring back the contract of the double field, which Esau had no portion. And when he shall open his mouth in the congregation of Yisrael to give praise, he shall be the chosen of all tongues. Joseph, my son, thou hast become great. Joseph, my son, thou hast become great and mighty. The end determined on thee was that thou shouldst be mighty, because thou didst subdue thy inclination in the matter of the mistress. So he subdued any type of desire or anything that would have, led him to stumble and commit adultery with Potiphar's wife. So he subdued his inclination. And in the work of thy brethren, thee will I liken to a vine planted by fountains of water, which sendeth forth her roots, and overrunneth the ridges of stone, and covereth by her branches all unfruitful trees. Even so didst thou, my son Joseph, subject by thy wisdom and thy good works all the magicians of Mitzrayim. And when celebrating thy praises, the daughters of princes walking on the high places cast before thee bracelets and chains of gold, that thou shouldest lift up thine eyes upon them. So like when he was being paraded around the streets, like the women were like casting stuff at him, so that just that he would look up to them, right? And he says here, thine eyes wouldst not lift up upon one of them, to be guilty in the great day of judgment. And all the magicians of Mitzrayim were bitter and angry against him, and brought accusations against him before Pharaoh, expecting to bring him down from this honor. They spake against him with a slanderous tongue, which is severe as arrows. But he returned to abide in his early strength, and would not yield himself unto sin, and subdued his inclinations by the strong discipline he had received from Yaakov, and thence became worthy of being a ruler, and of being joined in the engraving of the names upon the stones of Yisrael. And from the word of Yahuwah shall be thy help. And he who is called the All-Sufficient shall bless thee with blessings, which descend with the dew of heaven from above, and with the good blessing of the fountains of the deep, which ascend and clothe the herbage from beneath. The breasts are blessed at which thou wast suckled. It's interesting because this is something that a woman said about Yahusha, our Messiah. She said, Blessed are the breasts that you have sucked, and the womb in which thou didst lie. The blessings of thy father be added to the blessings wherewith my fathers Avraham and Yitzchak have blessed me, and which the princes of the world, Ishmael and Esau and all the sons of Keturah have desired. Let all these blessings be united and form a diadem of majesty for the head of Yosef, and for the brow of the man who became chief and ruler in Mizraim, and the brightness of the glory of his brethren. Now here we go, last one. Benjamin is this is where Benjamin's going to make a little more sense. Benjamin is a strong tribe, like the wolf with his prey. So he's not calling him a wolf. In his land will dwell the Shekinah of Yahuah of the world, and the house of the sanctuary be builded in his inheritance. And this is exactly true, and this is exactly what it's talking about, that Jerusalem is actually not in the land of Judah. It's actually in the land of Benjamin, which is, it's situated within Judah. So anyways, Jerusalem is in Benjamin. So, and the house of the sanctuary be builded in his inheritance. And that's exactly what happened. In the morning will the priests offer the lamb continually until the 4th hour, and between the evenings the second lamb, and at evening tide they will divide the residue remaining of the offering and eat every man his portion. So this is not talking about how Benjamin's going to eat prey like a wolf, and divide the spoil in the evening. It's actually talking about Jerusalem being in Benjamin, and the offerings of Yahuah essentially being divided by the priests that will be there, which part of their income or their sustenance was the sacrifices, and their portions of the sacrifices. So real quick though, going back to Levi and Simeon, we saw that Yaakov was upset with Levi, but let's read the full story of that. So this is the Testament of Levi, chapter 2. Now therefore know that Yahuah shall execute judgment upon the sons of men, because when the rocks are being rent, and the sun quenched, and the waters dried up, and the fire cowering, and all creation troubled, and the invisible spirits melting away, and Hades taketh spoils through the visitations of the Most High, men will be unbelieving and persist in their iniquity. On this account, with punishment shall they be judged. Therefore the Most High hath heard in thy prayer to separate thee from iniquity, and that thou shouldst become to him a son, and a servant, and a minister of his presence. And here we go. In the light of knowledge shalt thou light up in Yaakov, and as the sun shalt thou be to all the seed of Yasharel. But here it says, therefore the Most High hath heard thy prayer to separate thee from iniquity, and also to a servant and minister in his presence. And we see this in Deuteronomy, where it says, Deuteronomy 10:9, it says, wherefore Levi hath no part nor inheritance with his brethren. Yahuah is his inheritance, according as Yahuah thy Elohim promised him. And this promise is actually found in the Testament of Levi. The light of knowledge, which the Testament of Levi was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The light of knowledge shalt thou light up in Yaakov, and we just read that, I'm sorry. And there shall be given to thee a blessing, and to all thy seed, until Yahuah shall visit all the Gentiles in his tender mercies forever. And therefore there have been given to thee counsel and understanding, that thou mightest instruct thy sons concerning this. Because they that bless him shall be blessed, and they that curse him shall perish. And thereupon the angel opened to me the gates of heaven, and I saw the holy temple, and upon a throne of glory the Most High. He said to me, Levi, I have given thee the blessing of the priesthood until I come and sojourn in the midst of Yasharel. Then the angel brought me down to earth, and gave me a shield and a sword, and said to me, execute vengeance on Shechem because of Dinah thy sister, and I will be with thee because Yahuah hath sent me. And I destroyed at that time the sons of Hamor, as it is written in the heavenly tables. And I said to him, I pray thee, O Yahuah, tell of me thy name, that I may call upon thee in the day of tribulation. And he said, I am the angel who intercedeth for the nation of Yasharel, that they may not be smitten utterly, for every evil spirit attacketh it. And after these things I awakened and blessed the Most High, and the angel who intercedeth for the nation of Yasharel, and for all the righteous. Chapter 3, and when I was going to my father, I found a brazen shield, wherefore also the name of the mountain is Aspis, which is near Gibal, to the south of Abila. And I kept these words in my heart. And after this I counseled my father and Reuben my brother to bid the sons of Hamor not to be circumcised, for I was zealous because of the abomination which they had wrought in my sister. And I slew Shechem first, and Simeon slew Hamor. And after this my brothers came and smote that city with the edge of the sword. And my father heard these things, and was wroth, and he was grieved in that they had received the circumcision, and after that had been put to death. And in his blessings he looked amiss upon us, for we sinned because we had done this thing against his will, and he was sick on that day. But I saw that the sentence of Elohim was for evil upon Shechem, for they sought to do to Sarah and Rebekah as they had done to Dinah our sister, but Yahuah prevented them. And they persecuted Avraham our father when he was a stranger, and they vexed his flocks when they were big with young. And Eblaim, who was born in his house, they most shamefully handled. And thus they did to all strangers, taking away their wives by force, and they banished them. But the wrath of Yahuah came upon them to the uttermost. And I said to my father Yaakov, by thee will Yahuah despoil the Canaanites, and will give their land to thee and to thy seed after thee. For from this day forward shall Shechem be called a city of imbeciles, for as a man mocketh a fool, so did we mock them. Because also they had wrought folly in Yashrael by defiling my sister, and we departed and came to Bethel. Okay, so now, let's see here. All right, so now we're going to read the end of 50. Okay, chapter 50 of Genesis. And Yosef fell upon his father's face and wept upon him and kissed him. And Yosef commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Yashrael. And 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. And the Mitzrayim mourned for him 70 days. And when the days of his mourning were past, Yosef spoke unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father had made me swear, saying, Lo, I die, in my grave which I have dug for me in the land of Canaan. There shall you bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray you, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, Go up, and bury your father, according as he made you swear. And Yosef went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Mitzrayim, and all the house of Yosef and his brethren, and his father's house. Only their little ones, and their flocks, and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Yarden, and there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanim, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning to the Mitzrayim. Wherefore the name of it was called Avel Mitzrayim, which is beyond the Yarden. And his sons did unto him according as he commanded. For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan, and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Avraham bought with the field for a possession of a burying place of Ephron the Hittite before Mamre. And Yosef returned into Mitzrayim, he and his brethren, and all that went up with him to bury his father, and he had buried his father. And when Yosef's brethren saw that their father was dead, they said, Yosef will perchance hate us, and will certainly requite us for all the evil which we did unto him. And they sent a messenger unto El Yosef, saying, Your father did command before he died, saying, So shall ye say unto Yosef, Forgive, I pray you now, the transgression of your brethren, and their sin, for they did unto you evil. And now, we pray you, forgive the transgression of the servants of the Elohai of your father. And Yosef wept when they spoke unto him. And his brethren also went and fell down before his face, and they said, Behold, we be your servants. And Yosef said unto them, Fear not, for am I in the place of Elohim? But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but Elohim meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore, fear ye not. I will nourish you, and your little ones. And he comforted them, and spoke kindly unto them. And Yosef dwelt in Mitzrayim, he and his father's house, and Yosef lived 110 years. And Yosef saw Ephraim's children of the 3rd generation. The children also of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were brought up upon Joseph's knees. And Yosef said unto his brethren, I die, and Elohim will surely visit you, and bring you out of this land unto the land which he swore to Avraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov. And Yosef took an oath of the children of Yisrael, saying, Elohim will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence. So Yosef died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Mitzrayim. And that's the end of the book of Genesis. Now, we're going to read a little bit of, let's see. Okay, yeah, we're going to read book of Yashar, chapter 58, all of it, and then chapter 59, verse 20 through the end. So, chapter 58 of Yashar. And it came to pass in the 32nd year of the Israelites going down to Egypt, that is, in the 71st year of the life of Yosef. In that year died Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and Magron his son reigned in his stead. And Pharaoh commanded Yosef before his death to be a father to his son Magron, and that Magron should be under the care of Yosef and under his counsel. And all Egypt consented to this thing, that Yosef should be king over them. For all the Egyptians loved Yosef, as of heretofore. Only Magron, the son of Pharaoh, sat upon his father's throne, and he became king in those days in his father's stead. Magron was 41 years old when he began to reign, and 40 years he reigned in Egypt, and all Egypt called his name Pharaoh, after the name of his father, as it was their custom to do in Egypt to every king that reigned over them. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh reigned in his father's stead, he placed the laws of Egypt and all the affairs of government in the hand of Yosef, as his father had commanded him. And Yosef became king over Egypt, for he superintended over all Egypt, and all Egypt was under his care and under his counsel, for all Egypt inclined to Yosef after the death of Pharaoh, and they loved him exceedingly to reign over them. But there were some people amongst them who did not like him, saying, No stranger shall reign over us. Still, the whole government of Egypt devolved in those days upon Yosef after the death of Pharaoh, he being the regulator, doing as he liked throughout the land without anyone interfering. And all Egypt was under the care of Yosef, and Yosef made war with all his surrounding enemies, and he subdued them. Also all the land and all the Philistines unto the borders of Canaan did Yosef subdue, and they were all under his power, and they gave a yearly tax unto Yosef. And Pharaoh, king of Egypt, sat upon his throne in his father's stead, but he was under the control and counsel of Yosef, as he was at first under the control of his father. Neither did he reign but in the land of Egypt only, under the counsel of Yosef, but Yosef reigned over the whole country at that time, from Egypt unto the great river Perath. And Yosef was successful in all his ways, and Yahuah was with him, and Yahuah gave Yosef additional wisdom, and honor, and glory, and love towards him in the hearts of the Egyptians and throughout the land, and Yosef reigned over the whole country 40 years. And all the countries of the Philistines, and Canaan, and Zidon, and on the other side of Jordan, brought presents unto Yosef all his days, and the whole country was in the hand of Yosef. And they brought unto him a yearly tribute, as it was regulated. For Yosef had fought against all his surrounding enemies, and subdued them. And the whole country was in the hand of Yosef, and Yosef sat securely upon his throne in Egypt. And also all his brethren, the sons of Yaakov, dwelt securely in the land all the days of Yosef. And they were fruitful and multiplied exceedingly in the land, and they served Yahuah all their days, as their father Yaakov had commanded them. And it came to pass, actually we don't need that part. Yeah, we don't need that part. Okay. Yeah, we're going to skip to 59, verse 20. And Yosef lived in the land of Egypt 93 years, and Yosef reigned over all Egypt 80 years. And when the days of Yosef drew nigh that he should die, he sent and called for his brethren and all his father's household, and they all came together and sat before him. And Yosef said unto his brethren and unto the whole of his father's household, Behold, I die, and Elohim will surely visit you and bring you up from this land to the land which he swore to your fathers to give unto them. And it shall be, when Elohim shall visit you to bring you up from here to the land of your fathers, then bring up my bones with you from here. And Yosef made the sons of Yisrael to swear for their seed after them, saying, Elohim will surely visit you, and you shall bring up my bones with you from here. And it came to pass after this that Yosef died in that year, the 71st year of the Israelites going down to Egypt. And Yosef was 110 years old when he died in the land of Egypt. And all his brethren and all his servants rose up, and they embalmed Yosef, as was their custom. And his brethren and all Egypt mourned over him for 70 days. And they put Yosef in a coffin filled with spices and all sorts of perfume, and they buried him by the side of the river that is Sihor. And his sons and all his brethren and his whole of his father's household made a 7 days mourning for him. And it came to pass, after the death of Joseph, all the Egyptians began in those days to rule over the children of Yisrael. And Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who reigned in his father's stead, took all the laws of Egypt and conducted the whole government of Egypt under his counsel, and he reigned securely over his people. And just to show you confirmation, Hebrews 11, 21 through 22, by faith Yaakov, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph and worshipped, laying upon the top of his staff. And by faith Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Yisrael, and gave commandment concerning his bones. So, brothers and sisters, that is the end of the Torah portions of Genesis. And next week we're gonna be getting into Exodus, which is that's a major Torah portion, because there's so much that was missing from the canon, that went from, okay, Joseph is reigning, to now that he died, and now all the children of Israel are in slavery and bondage. You're like, well, how did that happen? And the book of Yashar actually fills in a lot of holes. So we're really looking forward to that one. But besides that, I pray that this was a blessing for you. But more importantly, I pray that it was a blessing for the Most High, that a group of people are coming together in these last days and want to study His Torah and want to keep the words that He has given for us to be obedient. So exciting times we're living in, brothers and sisters. So with that, we're going to end with a prayer, with a blessing, and with a couple of songs. So give me just a moment here. All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, Yahuah Most High, we just come before you in Yahusha's name, and we thank you for allowing us to gather together like this and to study your word. We pray that you give us the increase. We pray that you give us wisdom and understanding, that we may understand your word and may keep it and bring forth the fruit that is required of us. And we just thank you so much for showing us the goodness of belief of your true Son, Messiah Yahusha, and for being reconciled back to you through him. And we thank you for showing us what it means to follow him and to walk as he walked. And we just bless you and thank you. And we thank you also for opening our eyes to Shabbat and how wonderful it is. And we know, as your word says, that it is a sign between you and us. And, oh Yahuwah, we're yours. We love you in Yahusha's name. Amen. Yevarechecha Yahuwah Ve'yishmerecha Ya'er Yahuwah Panav Elecha V'chuneka Yesa Yahuwah Panav Elecha Ve'yasem Lecha Shalom. Yahuwah bless you and keep you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Stay tuned, brothers and sisters. Let's sing together. Shabbat shalom. We'll see you next week.
I sing to Yahuwah, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my deliverance. He is my El, and I praise him, Elohim of my father, and I exalt him. Yahuwah is a man of battle, Yahuwah is his name. He has cast Pharaoh's chariots and his army into the sea, and his chosen officers are drowned in the sea of reeds. The depths covered them, they went down to the bottom like a stone. Your right hand, O Yahuwah, has become great in power. Your right hand, O Yahuwah, has crushed the enemy. And in the greatness of your excellence, you pulled down those who rose up against you. You sent forth your wrath. It consumed them like stubble, and with the wind of your nostrils, the waters were heaped up. The floods stood like a wall, the depths became stiff in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I pursue, I overtake, I divide the spoil, my being is satisfied on them. I draw out my sword, my hand destroys them. You blew with your wind, the sea covered them, they sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Yahuwah, among the mighty ones? Who is like you, great in Kodeshah, awesome in praises, working wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your kindness, you led the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength, you guided them to your Kodesh dwelling. Peoples heard, they trembled, anguish gripped the inhabitants of Pelasheth. Then the chiefs of Edom were troubled, the mighty men of Moab. Trembling grips them, all the inhabitants of Canaan melted. Fear and dread fell on them by the greatness of your arm. They are as silent as a stone. Until your people pass over, O Yahuwah. Until the people whom you have bought pass over. You bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, O Yahuwah, which you have made for your own dwelling. The Mikdash, O Yahuwah, which your hands have prepared. Yahuwah reigns forever and ever.